today I am meeting with Anina, who is part of my signature program, and she's the mom of baby Matthias, who was born in May. So she's 5 months postpartum now, and she accepted to share her experience in the program. So welcome, Anina.
Hi, great to talk to you today.
Yeah, same. So I guess my first question, Anina, is what made you decide to join the program in the first place?
Yeah, so I have a really active lifestyle and I do a lot of high impact activities. And that's a really important part of my life, both mentally and physically, to partake in those activities. It's also something that my partner and I do together. So it's also a big part of our relationship. So it was really important to me that throughout pregnancy and then after birth, that I would be able to continue doing those activities, at least in some shape or form. Um, Birth can be, uh, it can cause injuries. It is a physical thing that you go through. And yes, it's natural and it can be beautiful, but it's also a lot for your body. And when you expect a lot of your body, like I do, I wanted to make sure that I was as prepared as possible to go through both pregnancy, labor, delivery, and postpartum as best as I could. So I wanted to be both mentally and physically prepared. And I really liked that the program was designed and led by a pelvic floor physiotherapist with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And of course, to me, it was also important that you were local to me at least, because it meant that you had a really good understanding of what the birth experience in our small community might be like in terms of what services and options we have available and what we don't compared to maybe a larger center. And of course, it helped that because you are local, I had the possibility of connecting with you in person for assessment or follow up as needed. So, yeah, it was really important to me and my partner that I would be as physically prepared for this journey as possible, and your program was really the right fit for us to make sure that I was going to be able to continue a lot of those activities that were really important to me, and that I was as prepared for what was to come throughout pregnancy, labor, delivery, and postpartum as possible. And your the content of your course really made that easy for us.
Amazing. Can you share a little more about when you say your activities? Like, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a competitive athlete, right? You were a competitive athlete before pregnancy.
Were yeah, yes, before the little guy came along. So uh, the activities that I like to do are mainly CrossFit. So that's, high intensity exercise, gymnastics combined with body weight movements and weightlifting, running, those kinds of things. I did compete, on small scale CrossFit competitions, but yeah, it meant that I was training a lot. So as an example, the year before I gave birth, I was training for both a half marathon and a CrossFit competition. So I was doing 5 workouts a week, 2 swims, and 4 runs. So that's a lot for your body, right? So that's just to give you an idea of how much I was asking of my body. And of course, that's not my life all the time every year, but that's just what I like to do in my free time. So yeah, I ask a lot of my body, and a lot of the activities that I like to do are high impact. I also really enjoy horseback riding and snowboarding. So those are also things where you need a lot of core stability, and your pelvic floor also needs to be in top working order for a lot of the things that I like to do. So yeah, very important. Yes. And again, when you're doing those high impact activities, you want your body to be functioning in all the right ways. So, if you have a nagging shoulder injury, well, guess what? You're not really going to be able to do a lot of the weightlifting activities, or do a lot of pull-ups and things like that. And it's no different with your pelvic floor and your core, right? I think those are often really overlooked. Um, so, maybe if you're a person who maybe does a lot of dog walking or a lot of hiking, you might not think about those components, but they're still really critical to your overall well-being and your physical wellness. And it's just that because I do higher impact activities, any weaknesses or any glaring deficiencies very readily become apparent right away. And I didn't even want to go there, right? So because I do a lot of those things, I know what even the slightest injury or the slightest weakness, what kind of impact that can have on your overall performance and well-being. And yeah, the core and the pelvic floor are no different.
Can you share some of the results you got from the program?
Yeah, so I think for one, the program and the content that you provide helped me feel really confident in going through my pregnancy. You know, I think a lot of people see pregnancy as a time where you need to kind of slow down and maybe not do all of the things that you're used to doing. And don't get me wrong, you definitely need to listen to your doctor, and every pregnancy is different. But I think there's this misconception that pregnant women are fragile, but that's not how it has to be. If you're doing the right things, and if you're, you know, preparing your core and your pelvic floor for the changes that your body is experiencing, and of course modifying your exercises to how you feel and how your body is doing and how your baby and you are doing, there's really no reason that you have to really stop what you're doing. So your program helped me understand how I needed to modify maybe the higher impact things that I was doing, helped me understand what I needed to do to protect my pelvic floor and my core throughout pregnancy to avoid kind of longer term impacts. And yeah, it just gave me confidence in knowing that I was doing the right things to also prepare for labor and delivery. So, how to, you know, pain management strategies and pushing techniques. I had high hopes for a natural delivery, a natural birth. Of course, birth doesn't always go as planned. Luckily, mine went as according to plan as I could have hoped for. But you know, the content in your course really helped me prepare for what all the different outcomes might be and how to hopefully get to the one that I wanted, but also how to prepare for the other ones. And yeah, it just made me feel really confident in my preparation through pregnancy and going into labor and delivery. And then I also felt really confident in the postpartum phase, um, knowing that I had a specific program to follow, and knowing that I had you in my corner to ask questions and to do assessments if I needed them. Again, you know, I was raring to I one of the reasons I signed up for your program is because I know that I will do too much too soon because I want to, if I don't have a specific plan to follow. So I was so grateful to have a really detailed 12-week postpartum plan where it just told me exactly what I could and couldn't do. And I felt like that was liberating because I didn't have to think about, oh, is it okay to do this? You know, like you have to think of postpartum as a season in your life, and you have the rest of your life to go back to those high impact activities. But those first 12 weeks or however long your body needs are so crucial. And I'm so glad that I had your detailed program to follow to make sure I was taking it slow, that I was focusing on the right things. And it also helped me understand that just because, you know, maybe you see other people doing things sooner or faster or whatever it might be, but it just gave me a base, a strong foundation, and I knew that I was doing the right thing for myself long term, particularly because, you know, we're planning on eventually having more children, so it was extra important to make sure that we took this the right way. um yeah, and I think um you know, your postpartum recovery program focuses a lot on core and pelvic floor, and I feel that those components have they're either as strong or stronger even than they were before, because I've never taken 12 weeks of my life to focus on daily exercises of core and pelvic floor, right? So um I really appreciated it as an opportunity to work on those two components that you might not otherwise do. So I'm really happy to say that my recovery has been really great. I've gone back to essentially every activity that I was doing before with no symptoms. And I definitely credit that to all the preparation from your program right through pregnancy, in labor and delivery, using those strategies to try and prevent as few injuries as possible, and then through the postpartum phase. So yeah, I definitely really appreciate that I feel that your program has allowed me to return to the same activities that I was doing before. And now it's just baby that is the limiting factor, time and the baby, not my body. So yeah, I would say that, yeah, my results have been really, really great. And I'm super excited to follow the program again, should I have any future pregnancies. I tried my best to follow your program to a T, and I was really dedicated in doing those exercises. I just tried to make them as much of as part of the routine as I could. In the early days, it was doing them while baby was next to me on the floor, or maybe I had to hold baby for some of the exercises because he was a clinger in those early weeks, like many newborns are, or I snuck them in during his morning nap, or, I just tried to make them part of the routine to make sure that I was actually doing them, because I definitely feel that I saw such great results because I tried hard to do them as much as possible. But I definitely feel that, doing them for any amount of time to whatever your capacity is great. But I was glad that I was able to do them as much as I could.
100%. You were so committed. And I remember asking you when you came to see me, how do you make it happen? Because you were one of the most dedicated persons. And I remember you saying, well, you just need to put an intention. If that's something important to you, and that, you have a goal in mind, then you're going to make it happen. Right. And it was really inspiring how you had this goal and you were like, no, this is important. And regardless of how much dishes there is on the countertop, or like how much the house needs to be clean, I'm going to take those 15 minutes for myself every day.
Yeah, and that's something I really appreciated about your program, is that it wasn't overwhelming, right? Like you just said, it's maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day in that postpartum period. So you can fit it in. Yes, some days, I remember some days it would be 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Baby is finally down for maybe 2 or 3 hours, who knows? And you remember that you haven't done your exercises, but it's only 10 or 15 minutes, and the program, if all goes well, is only 12 weeks of your life. Yes, probably some of the 12 hardest weeks of your life and most busy, but I think it's important and possible to find time to do those exercises. And it's about making it work for you, right? Like if you don't have 10 or 15 minutes at a time, that's fine. Do 5 minutes here, do the next set of exercises there, and do the next set of exercises later. And a lot of them can be done while you're hanging out with baby, or while you're watching a show if you really need to decompress, or, so I think it's just about trying to do them with intention, fully focused on them as much as possible, but you can totally fit them in. It's very manageable, which I really appreciated, because it wasn't just this overwhelming amount of time and exercises that you had to do every day. It was very simple. And yeah, I think anything is better than nothing. So if it is 10 o'clock at night, do half of it, or do one of the exercises, right? So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think it's also important to remember that even if you fall off track for a few days, just get back on and continue on. So yeah, it's about deciding what's important to you, and maybe today is the day where you skip your shower and do your pelvic floor exercises instead. Or yeah, it just is what it is in that postpartum period. But yeah, it's just about deciding what's important to you and figuring out how to make it fit in with what you're given.
Yeah, exactly. And if I take you back to the birth itself, can you share a little bit more about how your birth went, and without going into the whole story, but like I want to know how the program made you feel more confident specifically for birth, and some of the results that you got, because a lot of people are scared of tearing or having like pelvic floor damage. And my philosophy has always been you wouldn't go to a marathon and not train before. And so I'm like, let's give the body what it needs to prepare for that event. So hopefully we can prevent injuries. So yeah, can you share a little more about that end of things?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that the program did for me in that sense was prepare me a little bit for what birth might actually look like. And that also inspired me to then, look into um, other ways to help me through labor, just as an example, hypnobirthing. But yeah, your content on um, the pain management strategies for birth and the pushing techniques to limit those potential injuries really helped me feel confident going into the birth. And I think confidence is really important. Knowing that you can do this, knowing that no matter what happens, it's going to be okay. And even if it doesn't work out, how you wanted, you still have Sophie's other strategies to help you through whatever your birth ends up looking like. So yeah, the confidence and just knowing what was probably coming was really helpful. But then yeah, and my partner and I also practiced a lot of your pain management strategies beforehand. And that was also really helpful because it helped get him ready for what was maybe to come. So yeah, during my actual labor, it was quite the whirlwind. It ended up only being 6 hours of labor, but it was a very, very intense 6 hours. So yeah, anyone who's given birth can imagine what that feels like if it only takes 6 hours to get to where you need to go. But
And it's quite rare, if I may,
yes,
for a first
yes,
birth.
yes, absolutely. In fact, one of the nurses told me after, she's like, don't try and labor at home with your next one, just because she was scared that it would be even faster and we wouldn't make it to the hospital in time. So definitely rare to have it go that fast, but it also meant that it was actually quite painful just because things were happening so fast, and normally your body has a lot more time to kind of relax and adjust and help things along. So yeah, we used a lot of your pain management strategies during labor, and also the I lost my train of thought. The different birthing positions. So just as an example, I spent a lot of time laboring in the shower and also over on all fours hugging the exercise ball. So those are both things that I learned from your content and your YouTube videos. So those were really helpful positions for me. And yeah, I think the program also really, helps prepare my partner for what I might be going through. We watched some of your lessons together, and it helped him support me during labor when things got really hard, because they got really hard. And yeah, I was definitely on the cusp of. It's funny that you reach this point, at least I did, where you don't think you can do it anymore, and it turns out when you reach that point you're very close. So, and of course in retrospect you're like, oh, okay, I understand that that's what that was, but of course in the moment it's very difficult. So the content of your course helped my partner help me through those really difficult moments up to the pushing stage there. So yeah, and then in the pushing stage, again, I tried my hardest to use your strategies that you present in the course. And my pushing stage was also very short. It was about 14 minutes, which again, as you said about the labor stage, is incredibly fast, which again means that things don't really have necessarily the time to relax and adjust as maybe they normally would in a longer pushing stage. So yeah, he shot out like a cannonball. But of course, yeah. um, yeah, so I definitely did I tried my hardest to use those strategies that you taught in your course. I did have some tearing, but I will say that first of all, they healed. They were minor. They healed really well. I have no lasting impacts from them. But I firmly believe that it would have been much, much worse if I hadn't used the strategies that I learned in your course. If I'd gone in there not knowing what to expect, not having a good understanding of the pushing stage and how to do it to minimize potential injury and damage, I think I would have been off a lot worse. So, yeah, my minor injuries, I think, were probably unavoidable given that it was the first birth and that it was such a short, intense pushing stage. So, but yeah, I definitely feel that the strategies that I learned in your course helped minimize all of that. Um, yeah, and then, your course also covers those early postpartum days and gives a lot of pain management strategies. If you do have tearing or if you have other symptoms just from labor and delivery. So I was grateful that I had looked at those ahead of time, and you have a really detailed, hospital packing list and all those things. So I felt very prepared in the postpartum days to kind of manage my own pain really effectively. I was lucky not to really need a whole lot of painkillers or anything like that. And our hospital stay ended up being longer than we anticipated or hoped, just because there were a couple minor issues with baby. So again, having been prepared postpartum, I had, typical type A overpacker. I brought all of the things I could possibly need to the hospital, and I'm very glad that I did. So just because we ended up staying there a little bit longer than anticipated. So yeah, all of the packing list and all of your strategies and tips for those early days after birth really came in handy when we were, kind of stuck at the hospital a little bit longer than we thought we would be.
Mm-hmm. And how did the program impact your partner? I know you said that it seems like he was really hands-on during labor with the different techniques. Is there anything else that comes to mind in terms of how the program impacted your partner?
Yeah, I actually asked him about this, and he said that he wasn't quite sure how to word it, but he essentially said that everything was easy for him because the program made it easier for me. Right. So because I was confident and I felt prepared and I had the knowledge of what was coming, it made it easy for him because the program made it easier for me. So he said that he wouldn't have a good answer unless I hadn't done the program. So yeah, he said he had nothing to compare it to, I guess. So, but yeah, he actually recommended the program to someone else recently. He did, and said that it was just a really great thing for both of us, but mostly because it made me feel confident, happy, helped me recover so well, which of course, when your partner is happy and well recovered and able to get back to, kind of daily activities and all those fun exercises and activities I was talking about earlier, of course, that makes life a lot easier on your partner too. So yeah,
100%.
so I think for him, the biggest thing was just that the program helped me, which helped him.
That makes so much sense. My last question for you, Anina, would you recommend the program to a friend?
Yes, definitely. And I already have to multiple friends. I definitely think it's a very valuable course. And, I think it's valuable to anyone, anywhere, but especially here locally. I really appreciated having that local resource here in town. And again, the ability to come to you for assessment or for questions. And yeah, we didn't really touch on it, but you have the VIP Facebook page and you do the live coaching calls. So it wasn't just a course that you purchase and that you just kind of go through on your own. There's someone on the other end who's always there to answer questions, to help you. There's a whole community of parents that you've assemble through your programs. So having that kind of extra support is really great. So yeah, I definitely recommend the program to other people, not just because of the value of the content of the course itself, but also some of those additions to the program that really provide you with a lot of support in the times where you might need it most.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. That was so lovely to chat with you today. And thanks for everybody who's watched. Bye.